So for the last year and a half, I've been looking at a lot of my processes, what gear I really should have, and all the things that are actually taking up too much of my time are thinking about what am I going to use rather than just be using the things I should be using. So one of the things I was looking at, I love shooting film, I enjoy it, but it's become so expensive and there's also lots of problems that go with it. And I carefully looked at all the film that I've shot in the last sort of year and a half, and I realized that my hit rate of images that I'm actually using is very low, like very low. So even though I'm not shooting as much, I would still expect out of 2,000 odd images, I'd expect to get 5 or 6 images that I absolutely adore. I haven't got that. I've got images that are cool. They're cool for other reasons than it was a great photo because it was shot on film. One of the things I realized, I've always tended to shoot film black and white. And plenty of people say, why don't I have a black and white digital camera? And I say, well, it's once you've got a Leica or a Phase 1, cameras that are just set to monochrome only, you're very restricted in what you can do afterwards. You can change contrast and things like that, but you're really tied into the look of that camera. And film's the same. You shoot with Tri-X, you're going to get Tri-X. If you shoot all the different film stocks in black and white, it's just that stock. You don't have much room to change things that really bring in your style. So I then realized that maybe I should be shooting color film, and I started shooting color film and all of a sudden got much better results, more of the type of look I want. And then when it came into retouching, I found that I could now do my look with the film. I could get exactly the same feel to my images if I was shooting film or digital. But then I started to realize some of the cons to film had grown a lot, and one of the main things is try traveling with film. That's what STA does to my film. And you buy film, even once you've photographed it, I've still got this damage around the edges, like light leak. And it's definitely not light leak because I use this camera all the time, and it only showed up with the stuff that I traveled with America with. The other problem I'm finding, like the cost of film is horrendous. The developing, because I don't have time to sit down and develop, and the chemicals give me headaches, so I don't tend to. The cost of me taking it to the lab, dropping it off, then going back to the lab and picking it up, then coming back, then scanning it, all of the time in that for the return I'm getting is very little. And I'm also finding that with a new process I'm doing, it's very, very hard to tell the difference between me shooting with film or digital now, because I found tricks around it. My biggest problems with film is the cost, and the old cameras, especially like my Hasselblad 503, the Mamiya RB67, the Leica M3, is as you get old, your eyes aren't as good, and trying to focus, I'm never 100% happy that I'm getting the focus, which means it makes me reluctant. I'm a bit nervous when I'm shooting, even though I'm not one of these people that need to have things razor sharp. When you're sitting behind a camera and you're going, oh, I'm not sure, I can't tell if this is in focus or not. And then I spent like $500 on a special split screen for my Hasselblad and still found that I really struggled to get focus, which means now the model had to be fixed to one position, and I don't like working that way. That's not how I work. So another one of the biggest differences shooting between digital and film, I'm in a shitty Airbnb at the moment with really crappy light, really crappy backgrounds, and just shooting digital, I can get all of these images. We shot about 250 frames. Look at these images. They're like, because I can work quick, I can see Beck's expressions and just grab them as I see them. And seriously, I don't even think about focus when I'm shooting with digital cameras. And I'm manual focusing. But with focus peaking and all the aids we get with the modern digital cameras, it allows me to have this confidence to wait for Beck to give me this beautiful pose and then just click. And that's the biggest difference with digital and film is the confidence of, I see the picture, click, whereas film, I'm telling the model, hold, well, I'm not actually saying that, but hold, now give me something, don't move. How am I supposed to create images like this? So just these couple of images I'm putting up now are just some of the film shots I've taken. And yes, all of these, I've got the focus good enough to keep myself happy, but out of 2,000 odd pictures, I just found that I wasn't getting the pictures I want. It was a lot of time, a lot of money, and not getting the pictures I want. What I decided to do was look at the reason why I wanted to shoot film. And it was more because I find digital too digital. Film is more like vinyl or tape, and digital is just digital. It's missing a noise and an emotion, and the antique lenses and things like that, but it's not a problem because I have my Leica with nice antiques 75 on this, love it. My Hasselblad with the 80mm fully wide open, it's just like shooting with an older lens. It's a bit soft, and I really enjoy the look that I get off those. So now I can replicate any lens on my Leica. So the only difference is now the film. I decided to play around and try some stuff. So I shot all of these 18% grey walls with all different films on all different cameras with all different lenses. Came up with a way to make my digital, take that edge off it that I don't like. So just to give you an example, there's two pictures here that I've got. So I've got that one and I've got that one. These are zoomed in at 100%. One of these images is shot on my Hasselblad H6, and the other picture is shot on my Mamiya RB67. And seriously, the difference is tiny. I can see a big difference when I zoom out a bit because the fallout on my Mamiya was a little bit quicker than the fallout on my Hasselblad, but that was the only difference. So just so you know, this is the Mamiya RB67, and this is my Hasselblad. And to go through again, I'll do another thing. And sorry, I had to edit this for YouTube. So there's 3 images here. See how if I put any of these 3 images up, they've all got exactly the same feel. They all feel like my work. It's very, very hard for you to tell which is which. The only only way I can really easily tell is if I zoom in 100%, I can come up and I will see that this feels a little bit sharper than what I would get off a film camera. If I flick between those two, you'll see the difference. But that's about it. The feel, she was a bit softer in the skin. The fallout was a bit quicker on this camera because I was shooting a 27mm lens. I think it's something like that. But at the end of the day, when you look at these at the size they're supposed to be seen, which is not zoomed in, printed big, you really can't see the difference between these pictures. So I'm just going to very quickly break down to what I have done. So this image here was shot many, many years ago, and this was shot on digital. And I'm going to zoom in at 100% on this and show you why I like the change. So this is the digital image, and if I now drop in my film grain, you'll see this has just completely changed this picture. If anything, my film grain might be a touch too sharp, and I might just soften this down a little bit. But by doing this, I feel I've put a soul into this picture. And if I go back to full size, you'll see also we're going to get the vignetting shape off it. You'll see I've run it a slightly bit brighter than what we had before, but you'll see there is now a lens effect happening to that onto the film grain. So you know what a process is, but turn this off. I'll turn all of these off. And I might put a stronger grain over the top of this so you can see what I'm talking about. So I have a grain folder of, these are all pictures, they're photographed and scanned. And then I've made sure that the size is going to be appropriate to the images I'm using. This folder is full of clean scans, so where I've gone through and taken out dust and pops and crackles, The other folder, you'll see the scan, and you'll see there's some light edges. So I haven't cleaned any of that out. It's exactly what was scanned. So what I might do is I might do a strong example of what this is. So I'm going to drag a Tri-X. So this is Tri-X 400. I've scanned this in. If I drag it straight on top of the picture, it's going to load it on top of the picture. I just want to zoom in. This has been scanned to fit my full Hasselblad sensor, so I'm not stretching pixels now. That is the size it was scanned to fit. Now I've still left all the pops and crackles and all the little marks on this picture. So once I drop, let's just move it to where I need to have it. So once I've dropped this in, you'll see up here on my histogram, this is not sitting at 18% gray. And for me to blend this without changing the underneath picture by much, I do need to have this sitting at 18% gray. So I'm just going to drop over the top of this a levels layer, and I'm going to clip it, which means it will only affect this layer. And it's a smart object now still, so it means that I can resize this a bit without doing any damage. But now if I come up to here and just use my center area, I can now bring, all I'm watching is this, I'm bringing this now back more to the 18% gray area. So this, under a blending mode that I'm going to use, shouldn't make the picture lighter or darker. So now if I come to the Tri-X, I can now come in and change my blending mode to overlay. Well, that is darkening it now. So what I can do now is just come back to my levels and move my levels back so I can still keep the same exposure. So that's slightly lightening it now. It's actually quite nice lightened. Take it down to about there. Right, that's sitting about nice on there. So you'll see that all the little pops and crackles are now still sitting on there, just like film. See how it's added this beautiful film emulsion over the top of Shea. It's slightly softened it off, and I've got all of these little imperfections that were on the scan. Now, the one thing, if I did think this film just felt a little bit too sharp or too digital, because it's a smart object now, I can come up to my filter and just put on a blur. I'll just go Gaussian blur. All I'm going to do is look at how soft that grain has gone. So I'm only blurring the grain layer. I think 0.9 has done a really good job of this. I hit OK. I can now change this anytime. See, it's sitting in there as a smart object. So I can, when I come to print, if I go, oh, that grain's a bit muddy now, I can just lift that slightly and then retest my print and get the grain to how I like it. If I just come back to this picture here, you'll see that, again, if I turn this on and off right now, you'll see this feels digital. This has added such a beautiful emotion. And that's what I'm looking out for in film, is that emotion. I'm not looking for the process of getting there. I'm a commercial photographer. Time is money. Like spending all that time slowing my shoot down, slowing the model down. I get the pictures I get because I want to be able to, the second I see it, take it. On film, I can't. I just cannot get the focus as quick as I want to get. On the film cameras, I'm just not comfortable getting the focus. And I'm also not enjoying the process of taking the film into a lab, getting it processed, bring it back out, scanning it all, put it in the computer, convert it all. It's just all so time consuming. I just got better things I'd rather do with my life. If you like this, I'm just going to put up a couple more related tutorials.